and we never saw him again. You are deep in the budget-making process right now. The question is not even about CS Mbadi. The question is about public participation, because that's what we're talking about. Is that an opportunity enough to pacify the concerns that these young Kenyans have? The politicians have their own issues. I'm talking about the young Kenyans. Do you feel that it's enough?
I think we are talking about the budget.
So that she has the podium.
Just to finish about the budget, because you have
I was actually moving away from her to him on that budget
Allow me
issue.
to say this, because they both can address. The concern that I raised is that this came from the president in a face-saving act. That, you need to do something. That's what I'm saying. And so this button of the push and pull, and whatever it is, that, on and off, it's coming from the president. It is him who says, I need to
They
face
didn't have time to
absolutely.
So public participation.
Yeah.
We have, to be fair, we have seen the Committee of Energy doing a lot of work, doing a lot of consultation, despite the fact that the president announced. And I want us to be very clear here. The president comes from a political party that also has politicians. And by the time they are giving promises and they have their own, when they're doing the campaigns, there are things that jointly, both the president and the politicians who are with him promise Kenyans.
My question is about how do you pacify these young Kenyans? I know the politics will override a lot of these things.
But it's
we may want to
very hard
defend the president
to
or the other side.
separate the president and the politicians.
But you're deep in the budget-making process right now, Bwana Orero. Is there an opportunity in that to actually pacify the young Kenyans? Probably by conducting public participation that feels a bit more genuine.
I think last time when Honorable Badu was making the budget, I was privileged to host him in my constituency to do a public participation for 9 hours. And it was the constituents interacted and gave their contribution towards the budget and what they wanted. And some of their sentiments were included in the budget. What they did not want did not appear in the budget. And I think that was the first time we were seeing a CS come to Kibra to get involved in public participation. But I'm not saying that it was enough. I think many Kenyans need to be involved in this public participation. He must give the Kenyans opportunity and maybe travel in almost all the counties and get the full view of the Kenyans about the budget making process to ensure that whatever will come out of this budget represents the views of Kenyans.
Yes.
But you see, as a government, they must plan on how they will finance some of these projects they intend to put in the budget. And some of the pronouncements of the president, even by the roadside, president also has his budget. He also has, we have Article 223 that allows him to finance some of these pronouncements that he makes.
And Bwana Orero, that has been one of the issues that young Kenyans are complaining about. That the president's budget, or this budget to State House, from an initial budget of 8 billion, doubled within the same year. And these are the questions that young people would want answered. How does the president's budget double within the same year? These are around budget making. Have you been able to answer those questions to Kenyans? This is the reason why young Kenyans want to go to the streets.
That is why we are saying that the scrutiny that the parliamentarians need to do is the accountability of some of those allocations in various departments, including the presidency, whether it is properly utilized or not properly utilized. But I can tell you one thing, that in Kenya, the Kenyans we like rhetorics. We don't like pragmatism. There are politicians who have seized glorious moments for their own benefit. When we talked of the Gen Zs last year, they were leaderless. It was a spontaneous occurrence. But some of our politicians now want to use the Gen Zs to fulfill their own political intentions. And what we need to look at, what alternative policies do we have compared to the current policies that people are complaining about as a politician? If I want to be progressive, I must bring my policy and compare with the other policy that I do not like. I must be progressive in terms of thinking so that the Kenyans can judge. Like now, my friends who were talking yesterday, what have they done in parliament? Some of them are my colleagues. Some of them are our colleagues. The Kenyans need to know that these people that are looking for alternative government, what have they contributed? Even within the parliament, have they brought bills? Have they complained within parliament? Or they are just seizing this moment for their own personal glory? So as Kenyans, we really need to look at the leaders that we have. We don't need to look at leaders that we call them the crowd cheering leaders. The leaders who just believe in the crowd but cannot progressively put their policies for Kenyans to judge and see.
Yes, and I know the risk will always come to politics and who I support, who I don't support. But the question, and I want you to wrap this up because we need to move on to another discussion. ODM is an even bigger discussion right now. We'll come to that one, Orero. Wakili, who is answering these young Kenyans? Who's providing the answers? There's so many questions. And in 2024, when they protested, we talked about the revival or the renewal of the level of understanding and comprehension about the budget-making process by the young Kenyans. But it would appear at some point we moved on from them, we're back to politics. Fine, it's a politically charged period, but then is there anyone that you've had here answering the cries of these young Kenyans?
None. And the young Kenyans are the face of the future of tomorrow, of this country. Now, if every day they wake up to hopelessness and to poor leadership and governance, and they see this extravagance on display on a daily basis, it tears them apart inside them. And if you have a young person that you are raising up and begin telling them how tomorrow can be bright and they don't see it, now compound that, the domino effect in the country is volatile. If I were in leadership, I would shudder. Because these are young people who then become extremely desperate. They have nothing to lose and they will do anything. But you need to build on their energy, their innovation, innovative minds. But the government seems not to be listening. Every other institution that's supposed to be taken care of, including the youth affairs, it is not there for them. Look at the sports, for instance. Young people would like to, nurture their sporting skills. But what happened to the youth fund? I have never heard them question or take to account what the Auditor General, year after year, slams the failure of the youth fund. So the young people, unfortunately, are not being listened to. But beyond being listened to, whatever they put on the table is shoved aside as irrelevant. Why? Because we have a president who is the policymaker, the dictator of the direction, how that policy goes, and the legislation that embodies that particular policy. And we saw that by the passage lightning speed, and he's so proud of it. In other words, I am in control of the National Assembly. I can do what I want. Young people want to hear their issues being articulated in Parliament. And the question is now, which politician is going to do it? Now, the moment, and allow me to finish by saying, the moment someone says that, I am Sifuna, yes, I am Sifuna. Sifuna is in the Senate. Sifuna is not in Kenya Power. Sifuna is not in the National Assembly. Sifuna is not in the judiciary. Sifuna is nowhere near the port to deal with the issues. So we can have that one person, just a spark. But the rest are failing the Kenyan people. Look at the member of the National Assembly. For instance, Mheshimiwa, his own constituency. We do not even have a youth office where the youth will go. That you are of this and bring your issues on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, and I want to challenge the national members of Parliament, members of National Assembly. Excuse me, where is your office? Down at the constituency level, where you show up and you find people who are from Banisa, for instance, or from Mandera. They are residing in Nairobi City County. They do not have any connection with the youth there. And what are we going to do when the reality of that problem
Okay.
accosts us.
I think now that no. He has touched on my constituency about.
I'll give you each a minute.
I want-
Let me wrap up on this.
Yeah,
one.
before he
let
responds
us-
to him, I think
Okay.
I'm
Just a minute
not
only.
helping him. But sometimes I listen to Kinyanjui, I wonder which country he lives in.
Kenya. I live in Kenya.
I just want to tell
I don't know if you go down the
every
streets of this country.
I
Because
am
we really need
answering
to
you
move
what
on,
you
yes.
asked because
Just
you
a-
asked me
just a
where
Will you
where the
walk
youth
down
live.
the streets of this
I
city?
do.
Wakili.
I do.
Only 60 seconds because we need to talk about ODM.
I just want to inform him that every constituency has an office. There's a constituency office. There's a CDF office. Even myself as a member of, when I was a Mama County, even today, I have an office.
Where you
that-
actually go sit down
that
and listen to
people
young
I'm talking
people.
about
come-
showing up there.
What do you mean? That's where we interact with our young people.
No, showing up
I have
on a regular basis.
Personally, I'll tell you, I have foundations.
Okay.
I have students, even young people that we sit. I mentor them. I even get people to talk to them. So Wakili speaks like the members of parliament live somewhere at a corner, and all the young people have no access.
I talked
We
about perception.
We interact
But
with
you're
them.
removed.
That is a perception you are selling to
Not
the
me,
Kenyans.
not me.
It is you.
All right.
And you know, you behave like you don't live in this country. And
I
just
live in this
just
country.
to say something.
Of course you can
When
say
we
it.
talked about the budgeting and everything else, and the budget making process, unfortunately, we don't even have enough time. From the time we start the BPS, by the time the budget comes to the committees, by the time we even present the now budget from departmental committees to the budget committee, there is such a long process. There is interaction. There is public participation. We talk to the stakeholders.
And it's enough.
So it might not be what is highlighted, but it's a process that there is a lot of public participation.
Okay.
There's a lot of public participation.
60
Actually,
seconds only.
some of the, let me just mention this because it is important because it has been
Because of
highlighted.
time,
Some of the projects that are financed, there are some projects that come from the budget committee, but by themselves going to specific counties or constituencies, and Wananchi is saying, this is the project we are asking the government to do for us. And it is budgeted by Parliament itself. Unfortunately, once the Parliament budgets and passes the budget, the implementers are the ministry. So then from there, what you can only do is oversight.
Yes.
And that is what we are asking. Even for the members, as you said, the Sifunda is in the Senate. Is what the Senate they're supposed to be oversighting from the governors.
Right. But
Instead of what we are seeing, the fight between the senators and the governors.
He
60
specifically
seconds only.
talked about my constituency. I want to invite you to my constituency.
I'd love to come.
If you have ever been to Kibra and see how we are working
No,
with
you
the
need
youth.
after you leave here, you go
Even
to
after we
it's a few
leave here,
minutes.
I'm going to the constituency. Right from here, I'm going to supervise the distribution of bursary funds. We started on Saturday because I oversight. I am there for the next 1 week and going each word by word and sit there for 6 hours to try and see the empowerment of people who are given the bursary by NGCDF and many other programs for even my office if you come.
Okay. Hopefully,
We have just employed the youth.
Yes.
I have nobody with over 40 years.
do the youth come and ask you questions about public expenditure, issues raised by the Auditor General, the president
they do.
spending this much? Do you provide those
You
answers?
know those, you can never have instant answers, but you engage and tell them what happens. Because we have very informed youths nowadays.
All right.
And you can never lie to them because they are informed. So what I want to say is that not all the MPs that you interact with do not have programs.
All right.
Not all of us.
Let's take a look at some of
us
your
have very
feedback.
progressive programs within our constituency.
I didn't make a
Asante sana
blanket
Bwana
accusation.
Let me sample some of your reviews. Our viewers, there's Sharon from Kisumu saying, I think vijana are just tired. It's not even about fuel alone, it's the cost of living. The protest is just a reflection of deeper frustrations. Omar from Mombasa anasema hii maisha imekuwa ngumu sana. Fuel prices affect everything, even basic goods. If leaders don't feel the pressure, they won't act. Kevin from Rongai says, honestly, fuel prices are choking us. Fare imepanda, food prices imepanda, everything is just going up. Protest might be the only way for the government to listen. And Brian from Thika says, every time fuel goes up, my border income goes down. Customers complain, but you also have families to feed. Something has to give. That's just some of the feedback from young Kenyans. And the question is, who is providing these young Kenyans the answers they're seeking? Because politicians are just about us versus them. Wale ndio wazuri sisi, wale ndio wabaya sisi ndio wazuri.
Fred, there's a government spokesperson the last time I heard.
Well, Kenyans do have serious questions. Allow us to move on, gentlemen and lady. Allow us to move on to the other discussion. And this is about what's happening to the UDA.